We all know rock and roll has never been about playing it safe.
No more war pigs have the power.
From the moment Chuck Berry first duck-walked across a stage, the establishment has been trying to silence the music that speaks truth to power. But some songs cut so deep that radio stations refused to play them. Governments tried to ban them, and moral guardians declared them threats to society itself.
For she's a queen, such a laughter, disrupting their brains.
Today, we're counting down 10 songs whose rebellious words shocked authorities and inspired fans everywhere. Plus, I've got a bonus track about a band whose groundbreaking song was so far ahead of its time, it was essentially erased from history. Let's get into it. Number 10. What happens when a British garage band decides to sing about raw physical desire with zero subtlety? You get one of the most sexually explicit songs of the mid-1960s, and one of the most banned. The Troggs, I Can't Control Myself, 1966.
'Cause when I'm with you, I can control myself.
The Troggs' I Can't Control Myself was banned for its overtly sexual lyrics about physical desire and complete loss of self-control. Lead singer Reg Presley sang about not being able to control himself when touching his lover, with references to physical reactions that were considered far too explicit for 1966 radio. The song's narrator described being overwhelmed by physical desire, losing all restraint when in contact with his partner. These weren't romantic metaphors or poetic suggestions. They were direct descriptions of sexual arousal and the inability to maintain composure during intimate moments.
Oh, that my nerves are breaking.
Radio programmers immediately flagged the track as unplayable. The BBC banned it outright, and several American radio stations followed suit. Religious groups organized protests, claiming the song promoted immoral behavior and was unsuitable for young listeners. Despite the bans, I Can't Control Myself became a massive hit through word of mouth and underground radio play. The Troggs had proven that sometimes the most direct approach to controversial subjects could be the most effective, even if it meant being shut out of mainstream airplay. Number 9. Take a folk singer's whimsical song about social change and hand it to 4 New York musicians with a taste for the ominous. The result? A 7-minute journey into darkness that radio programmers found too menacing for their audiences. Vanilla Fudge, Season of the Witch, 1967. Donovan's original lyrics about strange things happening every day and people picking up on vibrations had been playful, almost childlike. But when Vanilla Fudge stretched the song to over 7 minutes with Mark Stein's ominous organ work, those same words about picking up every stitch and beatniks being out took on a darker, more threatening meaning. Released during the Summer of Love, the song's dark vision clashed with the prevailing optimism of the hippie movement. Radio stations that had embraced psychedelic music found this version too heavy and menacing for their audiences. The transformation of innocent lyrics about social awareness into something that sounded like a warning about impending chaos was too much for programmers. The song found its audience among listeners who recognized that the 1960s weren't all peace and love, capturing the darker undercurrents of the era and demonstrating that the same words could mean entirely different things depending on how they were delivered. Number 8. 4 teenage girls from Queens create a melodramatic tale of teenage love and tragedy that becomes one of the most banned songs in the early rock era. The Shangri-Las, Leader of the Pack, 1964. The Shangri-Las, Leader of the Pack, was banned by radio stations across America for glorifying motorcycle gang culture and juvenile delinquency. The song told the story of a girl whose parents force her to break up with her boyfriend because he's the leader of a motorcycle pack, leading to his fatal crash. The controversial lyrics described the boyfriend as a dangerous rebel figure. Leather jacket, motorcycle, and all the menace that came with that lifestyle. The song's narrative included realistic sound effects of revving engines and screeching brakes, making the crash scene particularly vivid and disturbing. Radio programmers and parent groups were outraged, claiming it promoted dangerous behavior among teenagers and romanticized motorcycle gangs that were causing concern in communities nationwide. Religious groups organized protests, saying the song encouraged rebellious behavior and disrespect for parental authority. Despite the bans, Leader of the Pack reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
I'll never know. Look out, look out, look out, look out!
Number 7. Britain's Bad Boys walk onto America's most watched variety show and deliver a sexual proposition so direct that it sends the entire country into moral panic. The Rolling Stones, Let's Spend the Night Together, 1967. The band lyrics were a straightforward sexual invitation, the narrator directly asking his lover to spend the night together, with unmistakable implications about physical intimacy. In 1967 America, rock songs were supposed to hint at romance through metaphor, not explicitly discuss overnight encounters between unmarried couples. Ed Sullivan's producers demanded Mick Jagger change the offending title phrase to the more innocent, "Let's spend some time together" for the live broadcast. Jagger agreed, but his eye-rolling performance and obvious disdain for the censorship made the band's position crystal clear. The contrast between the sanitized TV version and the original's direct sexual proposition highlighted exactly what made the song controversial. Radio stations across the country banned the original version, with many DJs declaring it too suggestive for family listening. The controversy only fueled sales, establishing the Stones as rock's premier provocateurs and proving that sometimes the best way to sell records is to have them banned.
Now I need you more than ever. Let's spend the night.
Number 6. A British glam rock pioneer creates a song celebrating androgyny and sexual ambiguity. So provocative it became a symbol of rebellion behind the Iron Curtain. David Bowie, Queen Bitch, 1971.
For she's a queen, such a queen, such a laughter, disrupting their brains.
David Bowie's Queen Bitch followed a flamboyant, androgynous character whose charm, style, and sexual confidence challenged conventional norms. In much of the Soviet Union, Western rock music like this was heavily suppressed, and Bowie's glam persona, combined with lyrics praising gender bending and self-expression, made authorities uneasy. Fans passed bootleg copies in secret, sharing it as a forbidden taste of Western freedom. Bowie's electrifying delivery and rebellious lyrics turned Queen Bitch into a symbol of sexual liberation and nonconformity, confirming that rock's power to challenge authority didn't stop at national borders.
Yes, they could be me. What did I say? What did I say?
Number 5. 4 working-class kids from Birmingham create the heaviest sound on Earth, then use it to deliver the most direct attack on the military-industrial complex that rock had ever heard. Black Sabbath, War Pigs, 1970.
No more war pigs have the power.
The controversial lyrics painted politicians as war profiteers with devastating directness. Ozzy sang about politicians hiding themselves away after starting wars, questioning why they never go out to fight themselves, instead leaving that role for the poor. The song accused those in power of treating war like a game, while working-class youth paid the price with their lives. The lyrics went further, describing these leaders as evil minds, plotting destruction and treating human lives as expendable.
Day of judgment, God is calling.
During the height of the Vietnam War, these direct attacks on the military-industrial complex were seen as dangerously inflammatory. American radio stations refused to play it, claiming it was unpatriotic. Military bases banned Sabbath records entirely. Conservative groups labeled the band as communist sympathizers, despite the song's clear anti-establishment message that transcended political parties. The controversy only strengthened Sabbath's connection with young people facing the draft, and War Pigs became a rallying cry for the anti-war movement.
Hand of God has struck the hour.
Number 4. A San Francisco punk band turns their satirical sights on their own liberal hometown and creates a dystopian nightmare that gets them banned from the very venues that should have embraced them. Dead Kennedys, California Uber Alles, 1979. Jello Biafra's lyrics painted California Governor Jerry Brown as a hippie dictator leading a fascist state disguised as progressive paradise. The song described secret police made of suede and denim, concentration camps for nonconformists, and a future where organic food consumption would be mandatory and enforced by the state. The lyrics detailed a nightmare scenario where California's liberal ideals had been twisted into authoritarian control, with references to forced meditation, mandatory health food, and the elimination of anyone who didn't conform to their new hippie fascism. The German title and Nazi imagery were deliberately provocative, comparing liberal authoritarianism to historical fascism. College radio stations found themselves in an impossible position. The song was musically brilliant, but politically radioactive. Several University of California stations banned it outright. Venues in Berkeley and San Francisco refused to book the band, fearing protests from their liberal clientele. The irony was perfect. A punk band being censored by the very people who claimed to support free speech. Number 3. A UCLA film student with a taste for poetry and a complete disregard for social taboos creates an 11-minute epic that explores the darkest corners of the human psyche. The Doors, The End, 1967.
This is the end, beautiful friend.
The song began as a simple breakup ballad, but Morrison's poetic mind transformed it into something far more complex and disturbing. The band section featured Morrison's Oedipal confession, where he screamed about wanting to kill his father and sleep with his mother. Themes inspired by Greek tragedy, but delivered with such raw, sexual intensity that audiences were left stunned. Morrison's delivery of these taboo desires wasn't metaphorical or abstract. It was direct and visceral, describing patricide and incest with an intensity that made listeners genuinely uncomfortable. The Freudian themes were explicit enough to be immediately recognizable, yet delivered with such artistic conviction that they couldn't be dismissed as mere shock value. The Whiskey A Go-Go fired them immediately after Morrison performed this section during a 1966 show. Radio programmers deemed the song too long, too weird, and too explicit for airplay, with the Oedipal themes being particularly problematic. College radio embraced it, and Morrison's willingness to explore the darkest corners of the human psyche established the Doors as artists first, entertainers second.
This is the end, my only.
Number 2. A preacher's son from Detroit reinvents himself as rock's premier shock artist and creates the ultimate anthem of teenage rebellion, one that terrifies every educator in America. Alice Cooper, School's Out, 1972. The controversial lyrics celebrated freedom from academic authority with gleeful references to school being blown to pieces. No more pencils, no more books, and no more teachers giving dirty looks. While these phrases might seem innocent today, Cooper's delivery suggested genuine destruction rather than simple summer vacation relief. The song's celebration of educational destruction, combined with Cooper's theatrical stage shows featuring guillotines, fake blood, and simulated violence, created a moral panic among parents and educators. The The lyrics seem to advocate for the literal destruction of the educational system rather than just temporary freedom from it. School districts banned the song from graduation ceremonies and end-of-year events. Several radio stations refused to play it during school hours, fearing it would encourage truancy or worse. Parent-teacher associations organized protests, claiming the song promoted anti-educational values and disrespect for authority. The controversy was exactly what Cooper had hoped for, and the song shot to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 1. 5 Detroit revolutionaries with FBI files and a taste for armed rebellion create the most explosive opening line in rock history, and a song so radical that it gets them blacklisted from their own country. MC5, Kick Out the Jams, 1969.
Kick out the jam! Gotta kick 'em!
The MC5's live version opened with Rob Tyner's infamous F-word declaration before commanding the audience to kick out the jams. But the profanity was just the beginning. The real controversy came from the band's association with the White Panther Party's advocacy for armed revolution against the American government. The lyrics called for kicking out established systems and replacing them with something new and radical. Combined with the band's open advocacy for violent government overthrow, drug legalization, and complete social revolution, the song became a genuine call to arms rather than simple rock rebellion.
Let me kick out the jam! Yeah! Kick out the jam!
Radio stations refused to play any version, even cleaned up recordings. The FBI opened files on the band, monitoring their activities and pressuring venues to cancel shows. Record stores were intimidated into not stocking their albums. The controversy only strengthened their connection with the radical underground. Kick Out the Jams became a rallying cry for revolutionaries, influencing punk rock and proving that rock could be a weapon against the establishment.
When you get the feeling, you got to sock 'em out with the mic in my hand!
Bonus. 3 African-American brothers from Detroit create what many consider the first true punk rock song, 2 years before anyone knew what punk was. But their music is so far ahead of its time that it essentially gets erased from history. Death, Politicians in My Eyes, 1975.
Politicians in my eyes!
Death's track featured lyrics that were a blistering attack on political corruption, with David Hackney singing about politicians having their hands in his pockets and their lies in his face. The directness was uncompromising. No metaphors, no subtlety, just raw anger about political betrayal delivered with an intensity that made even later punk bands sound restrained. But it wasn't just the political content that made the song unplayable. It was the sound itself. Death played faster, harder, and more aggressively than anything that existed in 1975. Their music was too punk for rock radio, too rock for R&B stations, and too black for the emerging punk scene. The band pressed 500 copies and watched it disappear into obscurity. Radio stations filed them away, unsure what to do with the music that didn't fit any category. Decades later, collectors recognized them as groundbreaking, making it clear that revolutionary music often waits for the world to catch up.
Politicians, tell me why can't you hear the people?
These songs remind us that rock and roll's greatest power has always been its ability to make people uncomfortable and challenge authority. Which of these so-called dangerous tracks was your favorite? Let us know in the comments.